Yeah.
There are people entering, and again, thank you for being here for us. Like this really means a lot to me. Thank you, and I know to Jill as well. So we really
So,
appreciate.
Michelle, are you going to introduce Michael?
No, you.
Okay. Okay.
I'll just keep admitting everybody as they come in. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Lima. Hi.
Hi, Michelle.
Nice to see you. Hi.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah. We're just going to mute you. So just so you know, I'm not being rude. It's just,
Okay.
okay, just to not have any background noise.
Okay.
Thank you for being here, everybody. I'm just trying to see Lorna. She's just connecting. Hi, Elena. Hi, Bob. That's it, Bob. Fix the hair. Come on. Go look good for the camera. Hi, Kaz. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. And I'll just keep admitting people, Jilly, if you want to get going, and because it is 8:30. So I'll just keep looking out in the background. Hi, Eleanor.
So, good morning, everybody, or good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are. We are absolutely thrilled, and more than that, we're actually honored to have Michael Feeley with us. He is incredible. What he's discovered is beyond fabulous. So, he's written quite a few books, and it's his Friday night in England, and he's given up his Easter Friday just for us. So, welcome. Welcome, Michael. Thank you so much. We so appreciate this.
It's a pleasure anytime, actually. Thank you.
So let's get cracking and just tell them a little bit about yourself, how you even got to the point where you've been writing these books. What made you change from doing what you were doing to this whole new world?
Well, to begin with, I was a police officer in the UK. And I signed up for 30 years, a 30-year career, which is the standard length of service. But around year 17, I was having all of these extraordinary things happening to me. Portals opening, UFOs coming out of them. Every kind of paranormal thing you can think of, it was kind of happening to me on a daily and nightly basis. So at year 17 of my career, because of all the things that were being presented to me of not of this world, I was no longer the same person. I'd always been open-minded. I'd always been open to many truths, but I was now beginning to experience what I'd suspected existed. And once you've experienced something, you can no longer not see it. You can no longer go back to the old pattern that you lived in. So I left my career at year 17. I really had nothing to go to. I hadn't planned that far ahead, because as far as my life was concerned, I'd actually planned it out to the letter. You know, I was going to do 30 years. I was then going to retire, etc., etc. So my life was planned out. But there were greater blueprints that were going on. And at year 17, I left with nothing to go to. But because I was having all of these wonderful experiences, I thought, well, how can I actually document what I'm experiencing that will put it as a chronological order for me, will preserve it, but it will also help others who may well be experiencing or about to experience the same things. So I began to document them and record them in books, because people can read my story and they can read it at their pace in their own time, and they can either learn from it or not. In terms of other bits of my background, I'm actually a descendant of Akhenaten, Nefertiti, Tutankhamun, and Meritamun. And it was Meritamun that formed Celtic Irish kings. And when I've traced my bloodline back, it takes me through Celtic Irish kings to Egypt. In medieval times, I was the personal scribe of Leonardo da Vinci. And in this lifetime now, I continue his work. Hence the reason I have all of these paintings of his behind me. Unfortunately, not the originals, but just prints of those paintings. And I work with him, and I will be the one that reveals the secrets of his paintings. Because unless you have a personal connection to the artist, you cannot possibly know the true story, the messages that is encrypted, the messages that have travelled through time, what the paintings actually mean. So I began as a multiple experiencer of all kinds of things. I then began to have the evidence and the understanding of just what it was that I was experiencing. And then that really progressed to quantum equations, to quantum physics, to the likes of waking up with those kind of quantum physics in my head that were put there by Leonardo. And I had to work them out. And a lot of these equations relate to using Earth as a free energy capacitor, how to travel in space, how to create portals, how to cure most major diseases known to man. And I have all of the equations literally from there to there in my apartment, all across the room, and there's quantum equations. Because of my deep connection to Egypt and my understanding of Egypt, for me, it really is my favourite subject. The only other subject that comes close is the symbols of Christianity, which of course comes from Egypt anyway. So Egypt is the epicenter of all things, and all of the knowledges from around the rest of the world come from Egypt. And the Great Pyramid and the Giza Plateau is far older than we are being told in the mainstream. We are told in the mainstream that the Great Pyramid is around about 3,500 years old, but I've actually dated it at nearly 74,000 years old. So you can see there's a large disparity between what we are told and what the truth is. So Egypt is the epicenter of all secret and sacred knowledge. So really, in a nutshell, excuse me, it is my purpose to reveal what has been hidden, reveal what has been deliberately concealed from the population, because the knowledge that this place holds will change the world, and it is re-emerging. It was set specifically to re-emerge now. So we are the privileged.
Michael, sorry to interrupt you. There's something going on with your camera. It keeps glitching. Can everybody else see it? I don't know if it's just on my screen.
No, but there is a crickety sound in the background sometimes.
Let me just see if that's any better. Is that better now? Can that?
That's better. Yeah.
I can't see any glitches or anything, but we'll try.
It's still the most bizarre thing. It's kind of like you're moving from side to side.
Oh no.
No, not mine. He's solid on mine, Michelle.
Is he? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Then I can spotlight. I'm going to spotlight Michael so that everybody can see his face. Is that okay with everybody? It just might be on my side then. Okay, just give me a thumbs up, guys. All good? Okay, awesome. Thank you, Michael.
No, thank you. So really it is the epicenter. It is coming back. I call the reactivation of the pyramid the return of the Redeemer. And it really is coming back with a vengeance. It never went away. It still exists in a parallel time. But as far as we're concerned in the third dimension, it is an ancient world, but that ancient world is coming back. So in a brief nutshell, that is me. That is my life. That is my purpose. In the deep secret teachings, there are three major parts of the universal renewal. We have the creation, we have ascent, and then we have the return. And what the return means is that those who have ascended, those who have a certain amount of knowledge, some of them have volunteered to return to help others to also attain that ascension. So there's creation, ascent, and the return. And the return, we can monitor certain individuals and characters of history because they returned to help mankind. So those are the three principles of universal renewal.
Fantastic. And Michael, can you please tell us about what you've discovered regarding the pyramids and the Sphinx, and what led you to that?
Okay, well, it's really a case of just chipping away. It really is a case of, originally I took all of these individual civilizations as being their own separate entities. But what I realized is that they were not separate. They were all saying the same things, albeit it was expressed in multiple different ways. And that all of the names of the gods were really referring to metaphors. All of the 4,200 recorded religions of the earth, at their essence, were all saying the same thing. So it really was a case of finding the blueprint, finding the code, and then just chipping away and piecing it together. So in terms of the discoveries about the likes of the Great Pyramid, well, we could literally go on all night. But I will just explain with the use of a whiteboard, if I may, just some of the things, because the Great Pyramid also relates to other things as well. So I hope everyone can see this board, but I will explain as we go through. So the title of this board is the Giza Code, the Holy Grail. So here I've drawn the blueprint of the Giza Plateau, when we have the three major pyramids and then we have the 6 little ones. That gives us mathematically 3, 3, 3, which can be written 3 over 3, which equals 4. Now 4 is the code of 4, which is the secret of creation. All things in creation pertain to the number 4. The 4 seasons, the 4 nucleotides of DNA, the 4 cardinal points, etc., etc., etc. That is called the code of 4, which is the secret of creation, universal creation itself. So when you look at the actual Great Pyramid, there are 204 course levels, and each one of those relates to a 360-year cycle. So when I did 204 times 360, I got 73,440, which is the age of the Great Pyramid. When I separated that mathematics, it gave me 18, and the number 18 relates to the Rose Cross. The Rose Cross is called Ros Tau. Ros Tau is the original name of Giza. So we have the Rose Cross Giza written within the mathematical age of the Great Pyramid. Now the Rose Cross is known in alchemy as the great work of the Philosopher's Stone. Now when you get the height of the Great Pyramid, it is 481 feet. So in digital summation, which is really separating a larger number into single figures, the 481, I did 4 plus 8 plus 1, which is 13. I then divided the original height, 481 feet, divided by 13, which gives me 37. 37 is the numerical value of the word Christ. So the Great Pyramid is the Holy Grail of Christ. It is also the mathematical tomb of Christ and Mary Magdalene. Now on the Great Pyramid, on the 17th course level, you have the entrance. And above the entrance, you have a double chevron. That double chevron means Shibua. Shibua means where the two worlds meet. Now, when you add up all of the numbers from 1 to 17, you get 153. 153 is the numerical value of the name Mary Magdalene. So you have Mary Magdalene and Christ encrypted within the Great Pyramid. It is their tomb. Now, of course, we have the Vesica Piscis, which is the womb, which is the element of air. But if you look at the mandala at the center of the Vesica Piscis, it has a unit number from left to right of 153. So we have Mary Magdalene written within the Vesica Piscis. Now from the Vesica Piscis, if I can just briefly show you on this bit of space, the Vesica Piscis is obviously 2 circles, but you can actually create the Christian fish from within inside the 2 circles. So there's the 153 fish caught by Christ. We also, if we put another tail at the end, we get the Egyptian eye. Now, the god Osiris means open eye, your third eye. That is what Osiris is. So we have then the Great Pyramid, which is the Philosopher's Stone, which is the Holy Grail. Now, the Philosopher's Stone is really telling us that we must walk as light in the material world. Now, that is what Leonardo da Vinci is encrypted within Vitruvian Man. Where do you get light from Vitruvian Man? Well, I took the circle and I took the square. 360 times 4 is 144, which is the code of light. So then, if you get the base of the pyramid, which is the 4, the code of 4 of creation, and the 4 sides of the pyramid are separate entities, you get 4 over 4. 4 times 4, which is 16. 16 is the vibration of the cosmic builder. In Masonry, that is the grand architect of the universe, the creator. So, the Great Pyramid originally had 144,000 casing stones. This is the 144,000 chosen to be with Christ, which is the Great Pyramid, which has a harmonic of 144, which is the code of light. So again, using mathematics, 16 times 9 times the 9 pyramids gives us 144, which is the code of light. Walker's light in matter, which is the great work of alchemy. So the Great Pyramid is the Holy Grail. Now the 9th pyramid, which is the Great Pyramid, relates to what is known as the 9th Lord. The 9th Lord is the source, the creator. So the Giza Plateau, the Giza Plateau was built by the universal creator. Now, when we take that mathematics to the Sphinx of Egypt, we find that it has the same code. So the Sphinx of Egypt is 240 feet in length, 66 feet in width, and 20 feet in height. So I took that mathematics again. 240 times 66 times 20 gives us 316,800. 3 plus 1 plus 6 plus 8 gives us 18, the Rose Cross. Now, the Rose Cross is the Philosopher's Stone. When I change the additions to times with the same numbers, 3 times 1 times 6 times 8 gives us again 144, the code of light. So both the Great Pyramid, the Sphinx of Egypt, and Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man all encrypt the Philosopher's Stone, which is the true identity of the Holy Grail. Now, in addition to this, the Great Pyramid is an electrical voltage storage. And I have the chemical formula for the limestone casing. And I can prove mathematically and through physics that it stores electrical voltage. This electrical voltage is then converted from electricity into radio waves. Now, the Great Pyramid is an antenna that transmits to the stars, to the cosmos, but it also transmits down into inner Earth. Many of you would have realized or seen some of the images that have come back recently about some of the stuff that is underneath the Great Pyramid. Based on what I've seen, I've concluded that this is basically a mechanical stress system. And a mechanical stress system creates piezoelectricity. And it is that piezoelectricity that's been converted into radio waves in order to put initiates into a trance into a meditative state and into an out-of-body experience, which is then going into the cosmos. And it is the crystalline stones at the base that are the batteries for the antenna. Now, the likes of NASA and modern day science and mathematics is using pi as 3.141. And they're finding that their transmissions are 0.22 of a second delayed. The coils for their spacecraft are too short, fractionally, and their trajectory back into Earth, again, is slightly misaligned. But if you look at the Great Pyramid, it teaches us that if we go through mathematical phi, then pi is actually 3.144. So 3.144 is true corrected pi. And the mathematics of the Great Pyramid teaches us how to use corrected pi. So the Great Pyramid is many things. It is an antenna. It is a brain. It is a transmission facility up and down. And it is also the completion of the great work, which is the Philosopher's Stone, the Holy Grail. And those who quest the Holy Grail were initiates inside the Great Pyramid. The Sphinx of Egypt is an initiation temple. And as you walk between the two paws of the Sphinx, you gather there until the priest of initiations comes to collect you. You are given codes in meditation in order to enter. So the face of the Sphinx is the priest who gave the initiations. Why doesn't the Sphinx have a nose? Because the nose relates to this world. It relates to life in this world. So because the Sphinx has no nose, which was deliberate, it wasn't Napoleon's marksman training. It was a deliberate feature because it is telling you that they were not of this world. And as you walk into the Sphinx, you go through many initiation processes. The hieroglyphs, which are a soul map, how to navigate the afterlife, how to navigate the dream world. The emerald tablets of Thoth also is a soul map. You only get what you are. If you enter an Egyptian temple, you don't learn by logic. You don't try and decipher by logic. You do it by what you feel. But you only get reflected back what you are, because the universe is a mirror. And if anybody has seen the law of attraction with Tony Robbins, etc., the way in which the law of attraction is presented is flawed, because no matter how much you pray, how much you plead, how much you beg, the universe doesn't speak in words, it speaks in vibration. And you will get mirrored back to you what you are vibrationally. So when you go into an Egyptian pyramid or a temple or any of these temples around the world, it only reflects back what you are. And you have to feel with emotions, the hieroglyphs, the emerald tablets, all of these secret codes are to be felt, are to be lived, are to help you navigate not only the dream state, but also after physical death, because physical death and the dream state are the exact same process. So if you can navigate the dream state, you can navigate the afterlife. Now, when you see the Egyptian depictions of the sun going through the underworld and then being reborn in the dawn, let me introduce you to the secret. That's not the sun. That is luminous clarity. So in other words, you are being led by the clarity of your own light. It's nothing to do with the sun. It is luminous clarity. So in brief, Egypt is a pinnacle place. It is the original Bible. It was taken by the Hebrews and later turned into Christianity. But the oracle in stone is the original Bible. The cornerstone that the builders rejected means to reject the outside world to encase yourself within the silence of the temples, to be initiated, to master this world, to master the dream state, to master the afterlife. So it is a pinnacle place, and you can't help but to keep returning back to Egypt when you veer off into all of these different civilizations, which is really all of them have their origins within Egyptian Gnosticism. So Egypt, the Great Pyramid, is many things, and that's just a few of them.
Thank you so much, Michael. And I feel like let's just strap ourselves in and let's go on the roller coaster ride. Woohoo! That's a huge amount of information.
And luckily, it's been recorded, so people can listen back and again at their own pace, take it in.
I just want to ask, who's feeling the calling? I'm sweating. Like, I feel like we're all just there. You too. Does anybody have any questions, Michael? Is that okay with you if anybody has any questions?
Absolutely.
Wealth of knowledge. Thank you. Just unmute yourselves if any of you have any questions around Egypt, the Great Pyramid. We're very, very fortunate for Gillian and Michael to have the connection of being here. Michael is a wealth of information. You have an incredible book that I think, just come out in the last few months, if I'm not mistaken, called The Movement.
It is, yes. It's basically The Movement, and it's forwarded by Leonardo da Vinci, and it has a lot of his secret codes and mathematics and inventions and all kinds of things in there. He contributed widely to the book. He's never done it before, but because he wanted me to finish what he never got a chance to finish, then we've reconnected again. It takes me on time travels. It takes me on all different things in order for me to retrieve information and bring it back and write about it. There'll be many occasions when I'm sitting at this desk writing with my pen, my brand new 2025 pen and my new 2025 notepad, and all of a sudden I look down and I'm actually writing with a feather and dipping in an inkwell, and all of a sudden I've gone back to the desk that I sat on, which is the house of King Francis I in medieval times. There'll be other times that I just time slip back to Egypt, because, as I say, we spent a lot of time in the Great Pyramid, and a secret that is not known, and this is exclusive to you now, Leonardo da Vinci is painted on the wall of the Great Pyramid, and at some point in the future it will be discovered. But you heard it here first.
Sure. Well, I'm so grateful to hear so much of what you've said, and I can only imagine we all are. And what I love, because I'm very much about working with emotions and the mirror of life, and a lot of times we don't want to own our own shit, but I love that. I love how you've said that it's about what the mirror of life is about, and it is reflecting, because who are we as human beings? And it's working through those emotions.
We are, because the formless has to become form in order to experience what the material world feels like. But it really is, if we wanted to change how our face looks, there is really no point smashing the mirror. If you want to look at a different reflection, you have to change what is reflecting, and that is you. And everything begins with you. We in this world, for many hundreds, if not thousands of years, have been the subject of subconscious programming through, again, symbols, through codes, through different things. But we are kept in a very narrow frequency field. Some people call that the matrix, but it has many different names. But the system keeps us within that frequency field. We are programmed to be concerned what other people think about us. We are programmed to act, think, and behave in a certain way. And the religious and the political authorities fear awakened people, and they try as much as they can to prevent that awakening. So they introduce belief systems, society, pitting everybody against each other. You are not worthy. You are just a physical body. If you live as a body, you will be forever contained within that frequency. If you live as a soul, then there is no control over you. So they try their best to stop people from being aware of what they are. So all of these hieroglyphs and all of these secret teachings, they're not really secret. And the only secret that is worthy of its name are the ones that you discover inside your own consciousness, because everything is inside you. And it's not a case of learning, it's a case of remembering. And the moment that people remember who they are, the world changes. The world changes for them, because the outside world is a reflection of what you are inside. So when your perception changes, you change the world.
So, Michael, tell us about what happened when the Pharaoh materialized in front of you, where you were, and the beginning of your story.
Well, what happened last time I went to Egypt, about 10 days before I went, I had this really cryptic message. And it was from a psychic medium from Scotland who I didn't know, I'd never met, never been introduced. And she just sent me an email just saying, regarding your trip to Egypt, you're going to find lots and lots of ancient information that will be added to your toolbox. It's for use of the past, the present, and the future. It all belongs together, etc., etc. So I went on the trip. I went to Cairo, I went to the Sphinx, I went inside the Great Pyramid, I did all of these things. And then after, there was a period of time when I'd be sitting in the living room of my house and there'd be scarab beetles just manifesting out of the wall. There'd be a time when I was walking through a city street and all of a sudden I just heard this strange, I can only describe it as like a whoosh type of sound. And even though I was in the same place, I felt as if I was kind of encased in this see-through sphere. And as I looked to my left, there was an Egyptian pharaoh walking alongside me. But not only could I see him from my left, but at the exact same time, simultaneously, I could see him head on and I could actually look through his eyes. Now, at the time, I didn't particularly understand how that was possible. But how is that possible? It is possible in the fourth dimension, because in the fourth dimension, you can see three-dimensional beings all at once from every side. So it was a fourth dimensional experience. So that when you start looking into the fourth dimension, time, past, present, and future, merges as one. It is 0 point. And this was part of the cryptic message that I got, being the past, the present, and the future all belongs in the same place, because that is the fourth dimension. And I'd been to the fourth dimension. And even though science says that it cannot be proven, and Einstein says that it should be possible, well, it is, because I've been there, and I've been there multiple times. So people are seeing lots of shadow people. What are shadow people? Well, if I go outside on a bright sunny day, I project a two-dimensional shadow because I am three-dimensional. So that shadow loses a dimension in its projection. So when you see a three-dimensional shadow person, that is a fourth dimensional being passing through our dimension, and they are casting a three-dimensional shadow. So this is what a shadow person is. It's a fourth dimensional being walking through our dimension. They can walk through walls. They can do literally pretty much everything, because there's a dimension that they have access to that we are not aware of. And it's the same as if me as a three-dimensional being was to go to a two-dimensional world and there were two-dimensional people in a square, I could see everything at once. I could look from the third dimension, which they're not aware of because it's height, and I could see all of the people in the room and the whole of the room. And I could put my hand in that square and lift my hand out of that square. So to two-dimensional people, I've suddenly appeared and disappeared. So when we are seeing UFOs in the skies and people are there filming this, and all of a sudden you will see a light there, and then another light will appear there, and then another light will appear somewhere else. just imagine that you were underneath the water in a swimming pool, and I was to lie on the side so you couldn't see me, and I was to get the tips of my fingers and put it into the water. All you would see are the tips of my fingers. And that is what the lights of UFOs are. It is what is poking from the fourth dimension into the third. And we are only seeing what enters our dimension. And that is the same, the pyramids, all of these ancient sites, where all of these people, these ancient civilizations have just suddenly just disappeared without trace. Well, where did they go? They went to the frequency band that we can't see.
Okay, so the question I have is, some unbelievable things happened to me when I was in Egypt. Is it because my energy was ready to meet its energy, or did the energy that was there activate me and open me up?
As I said, what is reflected back is what you are. So in order for you to have had those experiences, that is what you are vibrating at. And because everything is a mirror, what you see is what you are basically projecting. And it is that projection that is reflected back. If you go into the likes of the Great Pyramid and you are open, you are silent, you are not seeking anything, you just wait there in quiet patience, you will get a lot more information. So it is really just reflecting where you are in that moment. So the experiences that you received are what you were projecting, because it is mirroring those back to you.
So what happens when you're not even thinking of anything? You're just at a point of stillness.
The only place that the now exists is at 0 point. 0 point is the fraction before thought. So if you are in the place before thought, you are in 0 point. You are in the now. If you imagine that you was to think something now and you wanted to speak to this audience, by the time that you speak, that moment's gone. So anything outside of 0 point, you are always chasing the present moment. You are never in the present moment. So if you can get yourself to a place before thought, then you are in 0 point. Now, the original creation of the universe came from 0 point. The Great Pyramid was the original prime meridian. It was the original 0 point. So it is where the two worlds meet. And that is where the creator had a thought, which then became the word, which is really a vibration. And that vibration is the frequency field in which we all exist. But just like radio aerials, we are tuned in to a specific frequency. Now, for argument's sake, let's just make up a radio show. BBC News. Okay, so I want to listen to BBC News. So I get my radio and I tune into the frequency through which they emit. But when I'm just tuned into BBC News, I'm not aware of everything else that's going on. And when you start to retune yourself and tune yourself to other frequencies, then you begin to listen to different radio shows. In the same way, that retuning of yourself takes you to these different timelines, to these different dimensions. And that is how they were traveling. So if you get to the place before thought, you are actually in the now, the present moment from which creation occurred.
So thank you for that. What do you think is the connection between Rosslyn Chapel? Is there a connection with Egypt and Rosslyn Chapel?
Yes. The Knights Templars were not the Knights of Christ. The Knights Templars were actually Johannites, which was John the Baptist. Now, John the Baptist was seen as the forerunner to Christ. But both John the Baptist and Christ are two aspects of the same thing. You have John the Baptist, which is the experience, and you have Christ, which is your inner spark, your inner illumination, your potential. And that is why the Bible says that John the Baptist was not the light, but he was the witness to the light. Now, the Knights Templar has the Rose Cross, Rostau, which is the Philosopher's Stone, which is the Holy Grail. And we see lots and lots of rituals of the Knights Templars where they actually form the chalice with their body position, because the chalice of blood is the body. And they form the chalice, the Holy Grail, with their body to connect to these universal energies. So Roslin Chapel is a secret meeting place of the Knights Templars. I have found and located where they've actually hidden the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is another reason that I was banned from going to Roslin Chapel. But Roslin Chapel is connected to Egypt through Rostau, through the Rose Cross, through the Gnosticism, the knowledge that comes from Egypt.
Wow. So have anybody got any questions for Michael at this time that you'd like to raise?
I won't be offended if you don't.
I think they're not quite sure what to ask, quite frankly.
Emma, go for it. Just unmute yourself.
And forgive me because this is so much information, a lot that I've never heard of. What is the Ross Cross? You mentioned that a couple. Yes.
Can you see my wall? Let me, in fact, I've got one here. Right, the Rose Cross is the symbol of the Knights Templars, which, if I can actually get it, that is the Rose Cross. You see, you know, that the Knights Templar, the cross that they wear on their armor. So that is the Rose Cross. Now, Rose Cross comes from Rostau. Now, the Giza Plateau, well, the word Giza is originally Rostau, which means Rose Cross. And there's mathematics within both the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid that relates to the number 18, which is the Rose Cross. So that is what the Rose Cross is. It's based, in essence, it is the alchemical great work, or the end of, which is the Philosopher's Stone, which is to walk as light in a material world. And that is the Rose Cross.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lima. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, when you say Rose Cross, are you meaning, does it ever go back to like the Rosicrucian cross? Is that what we're referring to as well?
Well, yes. What you have, if you imagine that we're all in the same room and we all put information into a bucket in the center of the room, and each of us as individuals go up to that bucket and we take out instructions, knowledge, wisdom, whatever it is. What you find with these societies is they are all interlinked by the knowledge that they have. And a lot of their rituals, which invoke a lot of things, really have crossovers in many ways. So, for argument's sake, the word Elohim, the biblical word Elohim, through that one word, I can connect Hebrew, the Druids, Islam, Christianity, and Catholicism, just through one word, Elohim. So a lot of these societies all shared the same essence of knowledge. So when you start looking at their rituals, when you start looking at their Grand Master ceremonies, the last Grand Master ceremony that you saw in public was the coronation of King Charles III. Every minuscule part of that coronation was the enthronement of the Grand Master of the Priory of Sion, even down to the music. So this is what normally goes on behind closed doors. It goes on behind what they call windowless walls. So in other words, you can't see. If you look at Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper painting, he's actually put windows in the walls. So in other words, he's allowing you to see what you cannot normally see. So, but they're all sharing and using and fragmenting from one group to another and taking fragments of the knowledge with them. So there is really a crossover in many ways. So the Rose Cross, Rosicrucians, yes. It's not necessarily the same group, but
Mm.
they're sharing the same basis of knowledge.
Yeah, so I would say it's more like you've got many different rays of light, you've got many different initiatic paths, you've got the Rosicrucians, the Gnostics, the Sub Rosa, you've got all of those mystical groups that all have their traditions, like you said, which really makes a lot of sense. So when you talk about the initiates going through the Sphinx, now, would that be specifically aligned to a particular path, or would it just be any of them, any of the mystery schools? Was Egypt like the when you went through the initiatic path, was it something like I recall somebody said that the path up the Nile going through all the temples is an initiatic path of an initiate back in the time of a certain period of time. And so your penultimate, the air where you end is basically at the foot of the Sphinx, and when you are ready, you will be invited to enter.
Yes.
And that is the path of the initiate. And like just like we did it back then, all those thousands of years ago, there is a time now where that path of the initiate is still available to us, but it's not in the same form. We don't have to do the same rituals. There are different codes that are being downloaded. People are awakening. People are being activated differently to access that. But the path of the initiate is still the path of the initiate. What
It
would
is.
you term the path of the initiate? If you had to say the path of the initiate is, what would you say that is?
I would say the path of the initiate is to remember what they are. The path of the initiate is to develop themselves. The path of the initiate is to understand how to navigate the other worlds of existence. So what I have found is that, yes, in ancient times, we were, whoever was chosen would go to the temples and they would wear white gowns and different things. What I have found that for the majority of people in the modern day is that these initiation rituals happen as tests and challenges of everyday life. And when I've had certain tests and challenges and crossroads in my life, and I've made a certain directional decision, when I've looked back at the initiations, then I have found that they actually mirrored the tests and the tribulations and the decisions that I've had to make as part of my general life. So we don't go to the Great Pyramid to get initiated now, but we still face the same tests. We still have to make the same decisions. One of the visions in one of the initiations is when you are lying in the sarcophagus. And one of the visions that the initiates had, they described as metal birds dropping evil eggs, which exploded as they hit the ground. Now, that is quite obviously an aeroplane dropping bombs. And they had to make a decision. That decision was, do you continue to drop the bombs, knowing that it is wrong? Do you just continue to follow orders? Or do you say, no, I'm not going to do it? Now, going back to my police career, there was several moments in time when I had to make similar decisions. And I actually went against police policy in order to do the right thing. Of course, that could have resulted in dismissal. That could have resulted in disciplinary action for me. But I made the decision that I would take the path that was right. So that particular initiation test was passed. So it is everyday life that we are now being initiated. And to be initiated is simply to remember. Now, when you go back to the Rosicrucians, an abbreviation of the Rosicrucians is Ma, M-A, which means light. So when you start taking Ma and you add it to sonic to get Masonic, you are talking about light and sound. So light enables us to see with clarity, and sound teaches us the benefits and the importance of listening. We then go into the planet Saturn and different things, but nevertheless, the initiates sat and listened. They had information whispered into their ear. which was called the ear of corn. The corn is the seed of knowledge. The word Christ means seed. When Christ breaks the bread, he's spreading the knowledge. He's spreading the word of knowledge. Again, when you look at Leonardo's Last Supper, the bread is unbroken. So in other words, you are an environment where they don't spread the knowledge, they keep it to themselves. So the path of the initiate is to remember what you are, what you know, where you came from. And that's what an initiate does.
Yeah, so the school of life is basically everything. So whether you find yourself in a mystic school, whether you find yourself in the school of life, which is your lesson, you're still on that path of the initiate. And therefore, for me, it's understanding that remembering. And there's just like so many layers to that remembering, right? Because you can remember that you're a divine spark. You can remember you're united. You can remember your past lives. You can make it really tangible. But basically, it's that essence that we're trying to achieve. And yeah, I really resonate to those choices that we make. Like you just said, you have to align with who you are, not fall to society's structures and society's norms, because that's the test. The test is to choose you. The test is to choose to align. The test is also to choose that you are divinely here. And so that divine will, that divine spark is within you, and everything that's going around you is just your creation of what you need to do in order to evolve in your initiatic path. Would you resonate with that?
I would, if you imagine that the game is to forget, but the return home is to remember. And when you remember, that is your spiritual journey back from whence you came. But you forget as part of the game. Now, just imagine that physical life is not the main event. Just imagine that physical life is a classroom, and it gives you the opportunity to remember. Now, we are mainly water. All of the ancient sites are upon water. Water stores information. Now, when you look at the Hebrew word for water, it is mem. That mem gave us our word memory. So when we remember who we are on the path back home. But most people forget and remain in a state of forgetfulness. If you remember who you are through life, through remembering who you were in the past, when you begin to remember past lives, you've made a connection from the root to the crown, and you are on the journey back home. So it is not a case of becoming enlightened, becoming knowledgeable, becoming wise. It is really a case of remembering what you are and what you know. And that is your journey home.
Michael, can I tell you what happened to me in the water? So you've been speaking about water. I thought, wow, how incredible, because I've been following Veda Austin, who talks about everything in the water being, innate wisdom. So a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting in our spa pool at about 7:00 in the evening. The light was just starting to go, and there was a cloud in the distance, and I had a double take because it looked like a photograph of a man in the cloud, not just like a little dolphin or a dog like Play-Doh. And Michelle had taught me to actually ask, because I see stuff, but I go, oh, well, that's a bit weird. But this time I said, who are you? And he said, Amphion. I said, how do you spell that? He said, Amphon. So I thought, okay, I must remember that. When I got out of the spa pool, I typed it into Google expecting to see no results, right? Do you know what it said? Amphion, Greek god, circa 4000 BC, known for his sweet sound, erecting the 7 ancient walls of Thebes.
Yes.
2 nights later, I'm back in the spa. This time, I see another face. I said, okay, who are you? He says, Asclepius. He showed me his form like a statue, like the David statue in that like marble. So I jumped out of the spa pool. I grabbed my cell phone and I quickly took a photograph of him. And he had a curly beard and curly hair. When I looked up Asclepius, that exact image was in Google, and it said again, Greek god, circa 4000 BC, known for his healing. The third night, I'm back in the spa pool, and the entire sky lit up with one huge face. And I went, wow, you're a big kahuna. Who are you? And he said, I'm Theos. And I looked at Theos, Greek god, 4000 BC, god of gods. So you've got sound, healing, God, everything frequency. Michael, that just happened out of nowhere.
But when you look at these Greek statues and everything else, where do the images come from? They come from experiences in the other worlds. So when you have these people that are going through certain rituals and chants and everything else, they are being taken to other worlds. And what they're doing when they're coming back is trying to replicate what they've seen in these other worlds. So the image that they carve into their statues is what they saw. You know, I've looked up at clouds and I've seen clouds turn into numbers. I've been off planet and I've seen the Earth inside a cubic grid. Now, when you look at the Bible and you look at the description of the New Jerusalem, it is the cubic city in the sky. So the biblical writers have seen what I have seen, or I have seen what they've seen, because they came before me. But I've done that from a place not on this planet. So we are accessing other worlds, other frequencies, and we are able to recreate what we've seen, and that's exactly what they did. So you are going through what those, those philosophers, those initiates, those people who came before us have been through the same and experienced the same as what you're now experiencing. And they've recorded it in their own way. They probably didn't have a Polaroid camera to do it, but they did it as a sculpture, or they did it as a painting, or they did it as a metaphorical description. But you're having the same out-of-world experiences as they had.
So what would you tell people ready or excited to go to Egypt? What would you say?
What I would say is the less you look, the more you see. If you want to learn, don't use the mind, don't use logic. Interact in a place of silence, because silence is the presence of awareness, and you have to feel the answers. You can't look for them. So put yourself in a place of quietness and silence and see what comes. When the Bible says the Christ couldn't get in because the inn was full, what it is referring to is most people's mind is completely scrambled with irrelevant things. And if your mind is scrambled with irrelevant things, the inn is full. Nothing else can get in. So you're missing the messages. So go there in a place of quiet, in a place of silence, and feel. And don't try and work it out logically. Don't try and look at the symbol of an owl and try and work out, well, that's the letter A, because it cannot be read with language in that way. It is an emotion. It has to be felt. So go in silence and listen.
Thank you. Michelle, I'll hand over to you.
How would you recommend everyone to get their bodies ready for the calling? For me, it would be a calling. And it's a resonance that some would feel, some wouldn't. As you're talking, it's like, whew, like I get these goosebump moments, and like I say, sweating. We have been guided by Syed, who Jill was mentioning earlier on, who has grown up around the pyramids. We had asked about alcohol, and Jill and I decided that we didn't want this to be an alcohol, to have alcohol on this journey. I love Helena's words, it's initiation. Would you say that that's something, because he had said to us, it is another spirit that you're bringing in. What would your guidance be around helping people to align into this calling, Michael?
What I would say, in terms of the alcohol, there's a reason that the followers of Islam are not meant to drink alcohol. They're not meant to smoke. They're not meant to take drugs or anything like that. Again, using the Bible, thou shalt not kill. It's not just referring to homicide. It's referring to thou shalt not kill their spirit. And anything that is addictive, such as alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, kill your spirit, or they certainly thwart it and stifle your spirit. As I said, people will only see what they are. There's many different ways in which to prepare yourself for what you're going into. You have to master the dragon, which is really the 4 elements. Because again, going into the code of 4 of creation, we have to balance all of our aspects. We have to realize that black and white are from the same eternal note. They are the same thing expressed at a different frequency. So duality is an illusion. The physical body is an illusion. Do things that put you in a place where you can receive. For some people, that is meditation. For some people, that is breath techniques. For some people, that is yoga, and so on and so on. If you are in the most balanced place that you can be, when you enter these temples, that is what will come back. It is really a case of living what you wish to be. As I said half hour ago, there's no point having all of this knowledge if you're not going to live what the knowledge teaches you. If you're going to say, you must exercise patience and understanding, and then you go out on the street and you're papping your own, you're sticking your fingers up every mouse that gets in your way. The knowledge has to align with your actions. So wherever you want to be, whatever you wish to receive, your actions must reflect what you wish to be. And there's different ways in which to get to that position. But everybody wishes to be in a different place. Everybody wants something different. And whatever that is, you must focus on it. And when you focus on it, that's what comes back.
Mm. Yeah.
So prepare yourself in your own way, but just realize that where you are when you enter that temple is what it will reflect back.
Amazing. Thank you. And meditation is very much a part of our group every day. For those of you who are keen to join us, every morning we're starting with a meditation within the group, and it is once again, we can't force anybody to do anything that they don't want to do. Please know that. And that's not who Jill and I are. We are just wanting to show up and create a safe space for all of you to feel held, to feel the love, to feel that we're here in this new wave of change, because we're all in our own spaces. And that's what I love about how we feel the calling of coming together. For me, it's very much about you are you, and we're there to show up in who you are in that moment. And every day is going to be different, but the meditation is very much a part of what I've been taught in the last year, and I highly recommend it for anybody that just want to mute Bettina. Hi, Bettines. But it's very much a part of the silence. I think so many of us are so busy in our own minds, and it really is a learning to take time out for yourselves. But these are just things that we can't force you to do, but we would highly encourage and invite you all, as you're showing up every day for yourself. Please know that Jill and I are walking with you on this journey, and we feel honored to be able to walk this journey with you. And so, for those of you who know me, like, there's going to be tears, people. There's going to be crying. There's no doubt, okay? Tears of joy and tears of happiness in the moment. But anybody else want to ask any questions? Michael is a wealth of knowledge. I just feel like he's just like as thick as what his book is, but like it's like there's more.
So, I mean, what I say, everybody is really a unique note. And all of these experiences are always a personal experience. And there can be 100 people standing side by side and everyone would see and get something different to everybody else. If you imagine the universal field as an orchestra and each and every one of us is an individual player, but we're all needing to go into one harmony because the word universe means one verse. You know, the word chorus means to dance in a circle. So the universe dances in a circle with its cycles of nature. So the universe is a chorus, it is a song, it is an instrument, it is an orchestra. And if we're all tuned and we're all playing our instrument well, then there will be a harmony.
Amazing. Thank you, Michael. Anyone else before we say our goodbyes? Michael, any final parting words?
The parting word really is you can never fight the waves. You have to realign the helm. You need to be in alignment rather than fighting. When you fight, you create resistance. And that resistance stops you getting what you want. You need to have a flow. You need to forgive yourself for the lows and prepare for the highs, because the universe is a flow and you can't resist that. So just surrender to it and realign yourself and adapt yourself, and you'll have a completely free reign. And remember who you are.
Amazing.
You are actually more powerful than the gods, because the gods have only ever walked in the spiritual realm. We have walked in both the spiritual and the material world. So when you remember that you are so powerful, there is no government, there is no military, there is no system that can ever control you.
Love that. Julie, any last words?
I'd just like to say thank you so much to all of you for coming here today and listening to Michael. I just love him to pieces. I love everything that he says. I align beautifully. I am super excited to take anybody that wants to come with Michelle and I in August to Egypt. And I think I'm going to go there with a different mindset. And I just can't wait. Michael, if people would like to follow your work, how do they contact you?
The best place really is probably the website, which is michael-feeley.com. But if they just type my name into the search engines, then you get lots of interviews and different things that come up as well. Facebook, YouTube, but just, you know, the usual haunts is where they'll find me. But the website has a lot of free articles, free interviews, and you can spend several hours just looking through them all if you wish to. So that's probably the best central place. But the less you look, the more you see.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. We just so appreciated your time tonight. Thanks a lot.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a beautiful evening. And to everybody who's here and feels the calling, I've put the details in the chat. Please go and have a look at our itinerary. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to email myself or Jill. But we are so excited. You know, it really is a calling. And I love what Michael shared about the King's Chamber. And we're going into it. We have our own private tour. And who knows what tune or vibration is going to come out of us. It's just it's a beautiful, beautiful.
Look for the little crack in the cement in one of the stones at the head, where you've got the little gap in the sarcophagus. There's what looks to be a stone wall, which it is, but one of them has a little bit of crack in the cement. That is a door. And when you speak to the stones with the right vibration, with the correct third eye vocal alignment, using the correct time, which has to be 7, then the doors slide open. All of these cavities that are being found are actually secret rooms, and all of the walls that seal them are doors. And when you speak at the correct frequency at the correct time with that third eye vocal alignment, they open.
So is that in this like in sitting in it, or like is it inside, or when you're walking around it?
The one in the King's Chamber, where you've got the sarcophagus, where that's situated, obviously you got stones all around it, but there's a particular stone that looks like it had, if you look at sometimes when a building has foundational issues and you see like a little crack in the wall, there's one of them that has a very, very slight crack, it looks like to be in the cement sealant, but that's because it's a door.
Where does that door take you? I'm like, oh my God, where are we going?
some of the doors, there's one at the top, south facing, that takes you nearly 1,000 feet down into the ground. Now, just to give you a comparison, that's the height of the Eiffel Tower down. And that's just the one doorway at the top of the Great Pyramid. So these doorways go into down to other rooms, into inner earth, into all of these places that are underneath the ground, which within one of those secret rooms of the Great Pyramid mentions as being a civilization in inner earth. And the Great Pyramid as an antenna is also transmitting to them. So you're going to various places up and down and sideways.
Sure, that's incredible.
You know, I love it that in 2017, my guides told me that the Great Pyramid is a transmitter and receiver, and that it's a harmonic convergence, and it speaks to all the other pyramids.
Yes.
And then it's like interstellar. I mean, it's just fabulous.
If you look at, I mean, not only the other pyramids, but the other monuments of Earth, and also the other monuments on other planets of the solar system. I mean, again, it's a complete evening in itself. But when you start looking at the mathematics, you soon see that they are actually longitude and latitude coordinates. So an example is the face on Mars, which is a mathematical exact copy of the face of the Sphinx. But the face on Mars, in its longitude and latitude coordinates, it tells you how to precisely find Stonehenge. When you look at the mathematics of the Great Pyramid, it tells you how to find precisely the 5-sided pyramid and Sidonian city on Mars. The word Cairo, Al-Kahira, means a place like Mars. So we have all, not only does it speak to monuments here, but it speaks to monuments there as well. Not only up, but down. It's an antenna.
Yes, that's what I wanted to mention, is that a friend of ours, Laura, who's not here today, she put Jill under hypnosis and myself, and we both had spectacular information come through. And in mine, I could sense this, like this, as above, so below. And the energy was so intense. She had to really calm my body down. So please go and watch that if anybody feels the calling or wanting to, learn what was shown to us. But I wanted to ask you, have you been to Castle Hill here in New Zealand?
I've never been to New Zealand. No.
Oh, wow. Please come. We'd love to host you.
Yeah, well, thank you. The only thing that's deterring me is the distance. It's a beautiful country, and who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Castle Hill is phenomenally, like, it's just it's a beautiful high vibrational space, very, very connected to also so much. But I'd love to hear your mathematical equation and what else you find. So please, when you're ready, you're welcome.
Well, thank you. There will be mathematics in there. There's mathematics in everything, because, again, speaking about the universe, it is mathematics that expresses itself as a frequency. Yeah. And everything is a frequency. Yeah. When we look at sacred geometry, it is a freeze frame of shape in motion. So there isn't matter, the shape in motion. And when we see geometry, that motion has temporarily ceased. I found messages inside crop circles. I've deciphered the Nazca lines, you know. So the Nazca lines are a cosmic map, and each of the images of Nazca relate to a specific constellation. And when I followed the map, it took me to the very center of the galaxy, from where we are being showered with advanced energy. So they are pinpointing where this is coming from, which is the galactic center. There's always some mathematics. I once looked at what we believe to be the moon, which is not the moon, but I saw pulsating grids coming from the moon down to Earth. And I come up with a mathematical equation, mathematical formula, which then proves that it's those pulsating beams, that grid, that is tilting the Earth. And the Earth is being tilted because the dimensions of Earth are being separated. And they're being separated because people are in a different evolutionary place. And we have to be in our own space if you wish to evolve. And it is what we believe to be the moon that is causing that dimensional split. And I came up with a mathematical formula for the pulsating grids that I saw.
Wow.
So there's always some mathematics in it.
For sure.
Michelle, we need to get Michael back for a round 2.
My head's dinging, I swear. Michael, thank you so much from all of us here. Thank to everybody joining us from across the world. And Jilly, thank you for connecting with Michael. It really has been amazing, amazing, amazing. I'm sure we'll still have lots to ponder on, but absolutely, thank you. We know it's late in the UK. Thank you for giving us the time over this Easter weekend.
No, it's a pleasure, and thank you again, and have a great day, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Happy Easter. Take care. Lots of love. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Welcome. Bye, everyone.